You know what? Got the baseball bat back again. Last time I had this out here, I think we talked about recreation and talked about Bill Romanowski. Let me give you a little history on this recreation. Because, you know, some of this stuff is kind of fuzzy out there. It's easy to, how did Ronald Reagan say it? You know, some people repeat history and some people make up history. I can repeat history because I've been around since the beginning. About 10 years ago, Jane Stabell and I realized there was a huge problem with recreation with South Suburban. South Suburban seemed to banter with us. They weren't providing the services that we wanted. And Jane and I decided that we needed to have meetings with the board members. This is 10 years ago, okay? So we started meeting with the board once a month. And 2 or 3 of the board members would show up. We'd have lunch over here. We'd discuss issue. Probably took us a couple of years before we were actually talking and, you know, felt like almost neighbors. Not friends, but almost neighbors. And during that time frame, I want to tell you, I had neighbors over here. Mark Druba was always bantering about the fact that South Suburban takes too much money out of here. South Suburban does not give us recreation amenities. South Suburban's pool is bad, and I have my neighbors behind me. They're no longer with us, but Katie and Joe, you know, they would send me emails. Elton, our swim team goes over. This is like 6 years ago. The swim team goes over there. The pool's in bad shape. We got to do something. So Jane's no longer on the council, but Elton's still meeting with South Suburban. So we continue along the route, and I think maybe Roger Pearson got on the committee with us. Roger and I meet with South Suburban, and we discuss these issues about the pool being a problem. And South Suburban always said, well, we can't do anything because we don't have any money. And they had a chairman who's a good guy, he's a friend of mine, but he really was very, very, very protective of the golf course. And because of that, there was always kind of a feeling by some members of the board at South Suburban back then, 4, 5, 6 years ago, that Lone Tree had no intention of doing anything except coming down here, forming the city, and stealing the golf course. Hey, we had plenty of things we had to do. We didn't need to steal the golf course. It's a beautiful course. So we worked on that, and Roger left the council, and I think he volunteered to get off that because Pat wanted to get on there. And so Pat and I continued to meet, and guess what? All of a sudden, 4 years ago, we had a major breakthrough. That chairman left the board. Some new members came on the board. One of the new members, a lady named Kay Geithner. Kay turned out 14, 20 years ago, Kay and her husband and their kids were in the same Boy Scout troop at Greenwood Village that my wife and I and our 2 sons were at. So it was like old home week, okay? Then we had a new chairman that comes on. His name is Jerry Call. And Jerry is very much open to us, and it turned out Jerry and I had worked together. Man, it's a small world. You talk about relationships. I've been talking about those in there. Jerry and I had worked together on some political stuff in Arapahoe County over 20 years ago. So here we are working on this stuff, and we're putting it in place, and all of a sudden we have the ears of 3 or 4 members that are listening to us, and they're agreeing. Kay said, you're right, that pool is just not providing what we want. So we have moved forward to that point, and the very first thing we did around that time, we had a change in the board membership, and we also had a change in the heart of South Suburban. They decided they would start partnering with us on some stuff. And I don't remember who put it in there, but in our budget, we decided to put $250,000 a year, $250,000 a year in our budget, and South Suburban would match us. And the first major project that we got done was the Fairways at 39. That's what it was called at the time, Park. So Fairways Park was in place. We had Fairways contributed a couple $100,000. South Suburban did $200,000 or so, and the city did about the same amount. I don't remember the numbers, but the point is that was the first collaborative solution that we had ever had, and we had worked together on. So it was a nice deal, and it made our life a lot easier because all of a sudden, from 10 years ago, you know, going and feeling like you were a human dartboard at those lunches, to that point, we were shaking hands and saying, hey, we can work together. And then, like I say, Kay realized and Jerry realized, Dennis Reynolds, all of their board members, Phil Sarnak really understood that we needed more in Lone Tree, and that what they perceived to be good enough as an award-winning recreation provider was not good enough for Lone Tree. So they buckled right in, with a bit of a grin, and took off their coat and went to it. And they started to sing as they tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and we did it. I'm sure I must have pulled that poetry out of something from the past. But that's what we did. We were finally working together. And, you know, when I hear people today stand up and take credit for this stuff, I'm sitting here thinking, 3 years ago, Amy Desmuth was walking down here in the parade going, save our pool. There were all these factions out here pushing together, and about 2.5 years ago, they came to the culmination of man, we have got people finally hearing us, and we were able to move these things. We buckled right in, and we took care of it, and we got these projects done, and there's not one person. If there's one person that tells you that he or she did it, they're wrong. This was a 10-year culmination of work by councilmen for 10 years, and councilwomen for 10 years, and citizens for 10 years, and board of directors fighting us for 10 years, and board of directors 4 years ago getting on. You know, the recreation aspect is so important to the folks in Lone Tree. You want to have a place to raise your family. You want this to be a special place. You know, I'm on board with it. When I hear people whispering behind me that Elton Winters doesn't support recreation, I know that's just the campaign on the other side talking. I support recreation. I've supported it for 10 years, and I'm happy to say that I was a part of that solution that we're having today. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.